Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Disney Kissing the Feet of China. Well, sort of. Because, well, to be fair, the setting of this movie takes place in Canada, but it is concentrated on an Asian American family. And again, I'm not saying for the reasons I am just saying because of that. I am mostly just kind of giving out a little bit of kind of like a tease of the practices, the business practices, and the targets that Disney lately is doing. And especially considering that I heard that this movie is also from the director who also made this short film called Bao, which also won the Academy Award. And honestly, I do remember that it was sweet. I thought Bao was also very creepy because, well, it had very creepy character designs, and it has a creepy story, and of course it ends up with something that is very creepy. But you know what? This creepiness, it kind of gave me a kind of like a laugh out of it, and so yeah, as you can see, I saw recently Turning Red. But also, I do want to tell you guys is that I know that this movie came out last week, but I have a good reason why I couldn't watch that movie last week. Number one, I didn't have Disney Plus. I had recently I had to purchase at least 1 month because for some reason this movie wasn't shown in theaters. So they gave it the Luca treatment, in which I don't know what is happening. Maybe it's, trying to attract people to the Disney Plus thing, and much to the chagrin of Pixar. I mean, it happened twice. First with Luca. First it was with Soul, and now with Luca. I mean, it's understandable because of the COVID thing, but come on, now things are a little bit, how can I say, a little bit under control. The second reason I couldn't watch this movie last week is that I got really, really sick. I had fever, I had chills, I had diarrhea, and I had that awful feeling during the whole week. But luckily I recover well enough to even celebrate my birthday. And there, I'm 1 year older, considering that this movie is also about growing pains. And the third reason, believe it or not, is that while I was sick, my computer operating system got corrupted. So I had to reinstall Windows, and I lost almost all the programs that I had, even my video editing program. I had to reinstall it again. So what a week I had. Gosh. Okay, now I have to talk to you about this movie. Turning Red. Okay, maybe I went a little bit too harsh on, giving my a little bit of my kind of like a stance on the Asian market from Disney. It's not that I'm against it or something like that, or for reasons that you might think that it's not ethically good. No, it's not that. It's that I'm seeing kind of like a lot of it that I kind of felt like there is something business shady out of it. And considering that we had Mulan the last time we did that, it didn't sit me. It kind of rubbed me in a funny way, I'll say. And looking at the trailer didn't impress me. If I want to get away all of this aside, the trailer didn't impress me. I thought it was very annoying, and the character designs I thought is it's not very Pixar-like. Although, and this is something that many people kind of begin to complain. Although not me, I'm actually kind of like open-minded. But looking at the character designs, the movement, and all these things, I mean, you can see some of the some of the Pixar quality animation and movements that you can see that you normally see, you know, in those big budgeted Pixar movies or the little budgeted Pixar movies sometimes. But for some reason, this one, it more or less looked more like a Sony or a Netflix animated film. It's a little bit too stylized for a Pixar movie, so much that you might think that it's not exactly a Pixar movie, but more like one of those Disney movies. And so that's how technically felt out on the spectrum of the character design, and it didn't. But still, I was open-minded enough to try to give it a try. I mean, I've been hearing people saying that watch it, feeling that, well, it was feel good. It's about growing pains, about, well, puberty, and is represented with a little girl that turns into a red panda, kind of like a bigger panda than aggressive Resico, and kind of like cute. But it's more kind of like a Pixar Asian Canadian. You know what? Now that I think about it, maybe it's American. Now that I think about it, because it's set in Seattle. Sorry if I said that it was from Canada. I don't know why it came into my mind. Oh, I know why. It's that before I watched the movie, there was one. I was watching Willy Versus, and there was one of those thumbnails that say that the movie had felt more like Toronto or something like that, so it stuck in my mind. But there was Seattle, and also it's because when I was living in Vancouver, there was also kind of like an area for that. There was kind of like this Asian shrine, and pretty nice, and all this. And maybe that's why I thought it was Canadian or something like that. But anyway, after I hearing people that it you know, positive reviews, and again, I was saying that I was wanting to compare it to another movie that I haven't seen, but I'm very well aware that exists, that it also has kind of like the same thing, and that is none other than Teen Wolf. You know, the movie with Michael J. Fox, in which he reaches puberty, and puberty also means that he's turning into a wolf man, a werewolf. I haven't seen the movie, but I know, but the movie is well known enough for, you know, to at least know it as kind of like a cult classic. So yeah. So anyway, I finally saw it, and this is what I have to say. And then this is just personal opinion. Okay. Brace myself. Brace myself. Because, as you can see, people, you all know me that I am mostly very harsh on Disney movies, because I am mostly very sick of people always praising the movie and saying that, oh, it's the greatest and all these things, and almost no one has the balls to say kind of like, oh, this movie sucks or something like that. Even and they're always being praised in almost everything. When it's an animation, I'm not gonna go into the live action for this one. So here. Okay, I'm a grown man, I have my own taste and all these things, but I have to say this. As a guy who never saw Cars 2, a guy who never saw that movie, which is still considered one of the worst Pixar movies there is, I can't say that Cars 2 is the worst movie because I never saw it. Even though I do understand why it's one of the least favorite. I only saw the first Cars, and it was okay and wasn't fond of it. Another one that people say that is one of the best, one of their least favorites, was the Good Dinosaur. But there are some things that I agree that the Good Dinosaur wasn't great. It has wasted potential. So, okay, where am I going with this? You guys are gonna hate me for this, but Turning Red is officially my least favorite Pixar movie. I didn't like this movie. I give credit where it's due, but for Pixar standards at least, or at least probably is my taste, I wasn't fond of this movie. This is probably one of the most annoying Pixar movies I have seen. That movie was really annoying, and I get it. I get it because of the target demographic that it was going for. I get what it was trying to do, but still, this movie was a little bit too annoying for my taste. Although there are some things that I kind of praise, but I had to sit through a lot of awkwardness, a lot of cringy stuff, a lot of slappy face moments, a lot of kind of like hateful moments. But I get what the movie was trying to do. Man, if you like it, it's fine. It's fine. I've seen worse things. I'm not exactly gonna say that it's the worst movie ever or something like that. No. Honestly, if I have to choose between this one and Raya and The Last Airbender, I keep doing this. If I had to pick between this one and Raya, I'll take Turning Red, of course. I'll take Turning Red more than that one, because at least Raya had a very naive and dangerous moral. But this one, at least they tried to make something out of the moral about growing pains. At least in kind of using metaphor in a metaphorical way. But there's some things that I wasn't very fond of, and there's some things that I kind of wish that they could have gone a little bit on a darker territory, or something, out of the bag of Disney standards or family friendly standards. But hey, I'm not a writer. I'm just a guy who just stating an opinion on behind a camera. And this time, yes, just like the Batman, I decided to record it on a smartphone again, because I don't know, I wanted to try out again making my recording on a smartphone. But either way, I've been dragging this introduction long enough, and I want to talk to you about all the aspects about Turning Red. All right then, let's start with the story. So all right, let's start out with the story. The story centers around this girl named Mei-Ling. She kind of starts out almost like they're combining the personality of Ferris Bueller and Pepper Ann in one character. Talking to the camera, fourth wall, and right at this point, you can tell that I was annoyed by this character. It took me kind of like a few seconds for me to be annoyed with her, because she kind of acted, like Ferris Bueller. And honestly, I didn't like. I saw Ferris Bueller kind of like 2 years ago, kind of like my first time, and honestly, this is a movie that doesn't hold up because Ferris Bueller is such an asshole that I didn't like this character. Honestly, I know there's some fun parts about Ferris Bueller, but my God, I hated Ferris Bueller. But so I didn't. So right on the get-go, I was annoyed with her. But okay, I'm distracted. The thing is that she's this girl. She is basically kind of like this overachieving, energetic girl that she has her friends and all these things, and she also cherishes her mother. But the thing is that her mother is very overprotective of her, always saying that, hey, you're gonna be on you're gonna help me out, on the business of tourism, shrine tourism, because she lives kind of in this. In this small shrine in the middle of Seattle, where they tell them, the Chinese cult, their Chinese culture. They didn't say Chinese, but you can obviously tell, what by the things that they have it. And of course, red pandas are basically an animal that native from China, as far as I can concern. But anyway, she's this girl. She's having through all these things until one day when she kind of had this emotional rage after an incident with her mother embarrassing her, because she apparently begins to feel kind of like a crush between with kind of like this older man, this older guy that she never even talked to, and all these things. Later she begins to awaken, and she turns into this red panda, or a gigantic red panda. And this happens is because in her family for generations, they were the women from the family, they were technically blessed/cursed by some god to turn them into these gigantic creatures in order to protect them from bandits. But of course, that still means that it's going feral. So basically, she turns into this panda creature every time she gets extreme emotions. So the mother tells her that in order to get rid of that, curse, she must do a ritual under the red moon. That is gonna be after 1 month. So they lock her in, but of course she is horrified by the things that are happening until her friends discovers it, and they're really, really open-minded to that, and they decided to accept her and use her this red panda powers in order to make a profit, in order to get enough money to go to a concert that the mother disapproved, and so on. So basically, you can tell that it is the typical rebel teenager who is kind of like a mama's girl, because of a very overprotective mother, to the point that red panda thing is technically her rebel face. She basically begins to show her feelings, her emotions, and of course she's also trying to control and hide it from the mother that she's gonna go to the concert and all these things. I want to tell you one side note that is something that happened on the news, but you're gonna think that I'm crazy or something like that, but it's not me. But I can technically kind of understand where something really stupid happened on one article when here's the thing. A journalist on the internet, he saw the movie and was giving kind of like a review to Turning Red. And apparently, despite kind the biggest mistake that this journalist made is that it kind of said that the movie kind of made him, well, let's say that it awakens some. It uses the word that it kind of awakens some primal urges. Because the movie is kind of also like that, because the girl, well, she awakened her power because of that. As funny / creepy that this sounds, I can understand why it said that, but come on, dude. Sometimes there's things that you should not technically say and there's a place and a moment. At least I'm just saying it just to make fun of this guy. But if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be talking about that. Okay, maybe I'm gonna get a lot of slack for this one, but I'm gonna stop right now, or else it's gonna get worse. But you know what? It's basically Teen Wolf. You get the kind of like these emotions of puberty, which is basically kind of like a phase of rebellion, and then turn into kind of like a beast. And they kind of use the metaphor that you gotta control your inner beast, which is basically kind of like your extreme emotions or something like that and all that. And honestly, it all follows up, like a typical Disney movie in which, not many people at first, they don't get very freaked out to see a giant panda. At first they are, but then they kind of like accepted it, also the story kind of goes, using how teenagers act, but in a very, very, very cartoony way, and honestly, it was getting a little bit on my nerves. Funny enough, is that. Let me see if I have it here. There it is. If you talk about it, I'm not saying that the teenage juvenile lingo is technically annoying. It depends on how it is used. And this one I found it very annoying. And funny enough, because another one that uses kind of these teenage young lingos and all these things is none other than Neo Twitty, The World Ends With You. And honestly, these characters, their teenage lingos and all these things, they made it sound a little bit more natural and more reserved, and the characters are not annoying. They're actually more likable. But also there is the aspect of the mother. The mother, she is, let's say that she is kind of like she was a little bit kind of like a step away from becoming the mother from Tangled. She was also a step away, kind of like a step of becoming one of those Karen characters. And I kind of wish that it went there. And guess what? The mother is also the antagonist. She's also kind of like unintentional antagonist. She's an overprotective mother who she pushes her child, to be kind of like perfect and all these things. She overprotects her even for the most meager things. For example, she sees a doodle of a guy that she gets a crush on, and she just goes there in order to rent the guy. Even though these two, they never met. She was going through a phase, and she begins to blame everyone except her child. She's a total Karen. Let's say a total Karen. And this is the kind of characters that it was gonna take me a while to tolerate. And I know it was part of the movie, and I was gonna see where it goes through. But this mother, she's probably one of the, let's say that she is probably one of the worst mothers I have seen. I'm not saying that for worst words. I'm just saying for the context of the movie. And I get what they were trying to do. they were trying to say about, honoring your mother, even though your mother is an kind of like an overprotective monster. And I'll get to that just in case, because there's more to talk about that. But that will go if I have to do it, if I go to a little bit into details with it. But let's say that this mother was a little bit. It's a little bit hard to swallow, but still, I get what they were going to do. Oh, and she's voiced by Sandra Oh. Sandra Oh, I know that she's going to be in another movie that I'm planning to watch. And I know her mostly for, she is Sun Park from American Dragon Jake Long Season 2. That's the most I have to say about that mother. I've been talking a little bit too much about the mother and the dog and our protagonist that I almost forgot that there are other characters in it. Another key aspect of the movie is actually our main protagonist's friends. These bunch of friends are pretty two-dimensional, but honestly, they're as two-dimensional, but as well as they're kind of like these, the typical Disney Channel sitcom type of character, given in a kind of like unique trait personalities, and that they befriend the main character. I will say that I'm gonna say that the friends are probably one of the least annoying aspects of these of that movie. There's kind of like the braces girl who's kind of like the voice of reason. There's this other girl who apparently she's very goth-like. She's very stoic, and she's like, yeah, I'm humorless, but I'm still like that. And the other one who is kind of very hyper, going into ecstasy, that probably she had one of the best lines of the movie, in which she's gonna, I don't know, I like how she kind of act like it, and at the beginning of the movie she kind of yelled at something like, "We're gonna burn the house down," something like that. In a way, I kind of wish that that character was a pyromaniac in order to make this movie a little bit crazier. But this is a Pixar movie, not a Sony movie, as apparently it almost wanted to be. Other characters, of course, there's the father, who he almost doesn't have nothing to say except almost at one moment of the movie. There's also the grandmother, who I thought she was gonna be kind of like the main antagonist, but it wasn't. But let's say that it is one of those characters that it kind of reflects the personality of the mother character. And also there's kind of like the annoying kid who is kind of like a bully, but he's not exactly a bully. He's just kind of like a little prick. A little prick to the main protagonist until of course he kind of begins to like what she's doing, and then he's ostracized because of it, and then he just wants to get a kind of like a chance to that. So but basically it's kind of like the spoiled kid, a little prick, and that they kind, of course, if the movie could give a little bit more time and, well, a little bit more humanity to this kid, there was some wasted potential with this kid. That I kind of wish that this one could have explored a little bit more. Oh yeah, and you know what? There was kind of like this boyfriend kind of guy, not the old guy, not the older 17-year-old guy from the store. No, he was kind of like a character. And there's kind of like this other guy that our main protagonist kind of like gets smitten to, but it goes nowhere. It's just used kind of like a plot device or something like that to show that she gets strong emotions to, falling in love. Okay, those are all the characters. A character that comes into my mind for this movie. Give me that rundown. And now I do want to talk to you about the animation. And like always, I said that it's almost pointless to talk about animation when it's about a Disney movie because it's obvious that it's gonna be good or something like that. This one technically no exception, but I do have to say that it is indeed kind of like a bold move that they try for something a little bit different for Pixar standards. Usually in a lot of Pixar movies, there's kind of like a high concentration on the textures and the shadows and all these things on the, how can I say, on the environment to make it to make it look very CGI 3D, make them look like computer. Kind of like computer characters. This is actually coming to my mind, like for example, movies like Soul or what else there is, or the upcoming Buzz Lightyear movie that is coming. These ones are an animation that looks really, really busy. Even The Good Dinosaur or Cars, you can see a lot of busy textures. This one doesn't. I mean, even lower tiered Pixar movies like Onwards, or it doesn't show. Onwards even has shown kind of very busy textures compared to this movie. This one doesn't feel exactly like a Pixar movie, but more one of those Disney movies, or for a lesser extent, a Sony animation movie, mostly because of the design of the characters, in which this time they're more flexible, more expressive. Sometimes they kind of abuse a little bit, kind of like well, for lack of better word, the kawaii face that they got, like that. Ooh, they tried something different about that, and you know what? I'm open to that. They did a good job on this one, but still, you kind of have to kind of not think that, oh my God, this is a Pixar movie. This is something that, well, it feels different. It's welcome, but it's gonna take a while to make you think that, okay, this is Pixar trying, let's say that for lack of better words, not trying the Pixar way. Not trying the Pixar way because it doesn't feel like a Pixar movie. But okay, I'll buy it. They wanted to go in a different route. Nice experiment. Maybe you'll try again and probably it might work. This is what happens when you take a style and you get used to it for many years, and when you try something that is out of the norm, and you're gonna alienate people. This is one of them. So basically, yeah, that's the thing. And yeah, the character movement is good. It's a little bit rubbery. The panda looks fluffy enough. I'm not very keen of it. I'm not very crazy with it. Of course, that in the movement of animation, there's a lot of a young teenager lingo that they have there here and there. Although it's more kind of like the more innocent side of it. Thank goodness they don't go, in the harsh ways of, I'm going a little bit too further with it. And of course, I think I gotta talk to you a little bit more about the thematic, in which I really addressed that. Yeah, the panda thing is more like a metaphor to puberty. Is about the girl going into this phase, and it also mixes up with this girl who she's living under the wings of her mother, but even though her mother she cares for her and all these things, She's pretty much this caring character that she's recluse to everything. She wants to protect her daughter from, growing up and all these things. And here's one other thing that bothers me a lot about this movie is that the alienation of this mother character and the reclusiveness of this character is really so over the top that it's okay. It's a cartoon. I know that I try to avoid the word unrealistic or something like that because cartoons, how can I say, they can break the mold. But still, there's kind of like a level of something that kind of takes me out of it. Maybe young people or people who doesn't think of it too much, they're gonna brush it up, but not me. Here's some technical issues, some things that bothers me. One thing is a little bit the transformation. The transformation is that every time our main protagonist transforms into the girl and into the human girl and to a panda, why and please please explain to me, how is it that she can turn but her clothes are still on? When she turns, her clothes are gone, and when she reverts back, her clothes are still there. So does she transform with the clothes on, or what happens to the clothes? Where did the clothes go? Did they go to to a different dimension or something like that? That kind of bothers me. Where did the clothes go? I know that they didn't want it to make her they don't want to make the character naked because it's gonna go beyond a lot of things, and you're gonna have to you're gonna have to find ways to bypass that thing. And it's gonna cost a lot of animation to build extra scenes about a character that transforms to and fro from one monster to another. Still, the clothes kind of bothers me in this thing. Another thing that kind of bothered me about is basically the mother and also the family. Is that this because of the actions of the mother is that her reaction to almost everything, it's like she is alienated to almost everything. It's almost like this character has kind of like no life and no friends. She blames. There's something about this. I can understand that this is a mother who she disapproves of her her friends without knowing them. That could be kind of like a theme about it. But what really kind of gets me is that when this mother when she begins to learn about this boy band concert and that she prohibits her daughter to go, but when she's kind of like complaining about it, she's like, what is with these guys? Look how he's dressed or something like that. I've seen grandmas being more open-minded to that, and she even has kind of like this old school television. And she's almost acting like she lived under a rock and doesn't know what the outside world is. And that it's not like she was a grave robber. For example, I was thinking about this Yu-Gi-Oh, the original. There was this family of grave this tomb guardians that, at least to the benefit, they were alienated from the world by choice. They were alienated. They don't know about the outside world because they were living under a tomb and they don't connect to anything on the outside world. But not this time. We have a girl that goes to school and everything. So pretty much there's a lot of opportunity for having a character that is open to the outside world. But not this character that kind of feels like, one thing is that she's kind of like she kind of like mentioned her disgust to these one, but the way she kind of acted is almost like she knew the outside world, and this mother character, the way she acted, she was a very, very hateful character. And unfortunately, I wanted this movie that it went to a point that I wanted to get darker, but it didn't. That one actually they leave it to Tangled. But okay, I kind of appreciate a little bit, kind of like the moral that sometimes you grow up, you have to come in terms to your choices. You're not bound, for what your family does to make you happy, and that sometimes, having these scenes kind of go with a big responsibility, but you can choose whatever you want to choose or something like that, and you can't. You're just a teenager, and you live your life. You have your way of life. You have to enjoy your life as it is, and don't be overly dependent of, an overprotective parent. But there is something that I want to discuss, and this is a little bit that comes during the climax of the movie. All right. Now it's time for me to discuss the kind of like the ending of the movie, because at this point, the movie is not that long. I'll say it's kind of like I think it went an hour 40 minutes. Actually, it went by a little bit too fast, and I do remember that I even posted on Facebook that I'm 40 more movies into the movie, and I hated it. I'm hating it. I was hating this movie. And then I kind of began to warm up a little bit by the events that are happening. Until, of course, came out some moments that I kind of began to raise my eyebrows here and there. And, well, it's time for me to discuss a little bit in details about my feelings towards this climax. Because I think that the climax, I wish they could have taken a little bit more of a darker approach. And for this, I'll have to go with spoiler territory. Yeah, I decided that I have to go with the spoiler territory. And, well, here goes. So, basically, the big moment actually happens during the prick kid's birthday party, because he just wanted our protagonist to go there as the panda. But unfortunately, also during that same day, the older relatives comes to her house in order to prepare for the ritual that is gonna seal off the monster red panda on her. So technically they just wanted to seal off this, and also they kind of show that the mother and the grandmother had this tension, because during apparently the mother also had these fits, and it hurt the grandmother to the point that she has a scar to make her look villainous. I kind of wish the scar was a little bit more. I will have added at least two more scratch lines to make it more serious. But anyway, the mother discovers the daughter's secret about that she's been collecting funds to go to the concert, but also at the same time. But at the same time, our protagonist had kind of like this raging spasm against the prick kid, because he technically insulted by saying that, hey, your mother is a psychopath and all these things, and it hurt him. It made everything went bad. The parents scold the mother and all these things, and of course the mother blames the friends instead of our protagonist, because she's the one that made all these choices and all these things. But of course, she can't say no to the mother, because of course, mother is family and all these things. And of course, comes the day of the ritual, and then of course the concert. And well, here's actually the moment that I actually like. The father, he was almost like, he's basically kind of like this meek man who almost doesn't say anything. It's almost like, the mother with the kind of like, the strong woman, the woman with the attitude, that kind of like the woman in the house and all these things. And the parents like, yes, kind of like the house dad. Nothing wrong with that, but he sees the kind of like the video with our main protagonist as the red panda having a lot of fun, and sees that she was happy, and he tells her that your mother didn't tell you, but she also went through that, and they had also this fight because they were arguing about marrying me and all, because their grandmother that didn't approve me and all these things. And well, he was kind of like this passive guy, and he tells her that, well, it's still your choice. It is your choice to keep the beast or not. And of course, during the ritual, she finally realizes that being the panda isn't so bad. As long as she can control, the emotions. Even the father tells her that, well, things happen. There are times in which, as a human being, or we lose control of our emotion and we technically hurt. It's normal. So our protagonist say no to the ritual, and she runs away. But of course, the mother is like, "How dare you disobey me?" and all these things. And of course, here's something that kind of raised my eyebrows. The ritual, it was about to get rid of the panda. But no, apparently the whole thing, it was only to seal the panda on a trinket, or in this case, kind of like a medallion. So the mother's medallion breaks, so technically it turns she basically turns into the giant red panda. A giant red panda, kind of like Godzilla levels. And she just decided to look for her daughter in the concert where the big climax it is, and she destroys everything. And she's all for her daughter because she turned into, metaphorically, her overprotectiveness to the daughter. She turns her into kind of like a big monster and all these things. And yeah, it's true. She turns into a big monster. And of course we get kind of like this rebellious phase, and then battle between, our protagonist saying that I am not you, and all these things. And yeah, it kind of turns into something like that, kind of like a mother battle. And I can't believe that one of those moments, in order to make her back off, is by twerking. Yes, sometimes you can back off a very stubborn, old school, overprotective monster by showing them signs of twerking. So technically they pulled her, it's all this in order to try to knock her down into a giant circle that is part of the ritual, because they just decide to, put her into a ritual and all these things. To seal off the monster before, the red moon is gone and all these things. And of course, the monster gets unconscious, and of course, because it's a family film, they don't want to make that she's a total monster and everything. They just want her, to pull her in and all these things. In which, and of course, the grandmother and the old ladies, they also break their medallions and trinkets in order to turn into their pandas, in order to get strength enough to pull the giant monster, which kind of begs the question, how the hell is that the mother is kaiju level size and the other one is mostly, let's say, Sully level size in this one. So basically, everyone they go to the they all go to the ritual. They even make the sutra by using the boy band, and of course, we go kind of like in the kind of like this spectral world in which our protagonist then see kind of like a younger version of her mother, kind of saying that she wasn't good enough for the mother and all these things, and she was like, okay, you can go with him. I'm grown up. I can take my own decision, all these things, and I'll be fine. You're still my mother, all these things. So she kind of regrets it, and of course, everyone seal off their monster except for protagonist. And of course, she's now, she's living her own life. The red panda tanuki thing kind of boost up the economy of the shrine. Of course, now they have to raise funds because they have to, what was it? They have to spend it to pay off the damage of the stadium. And she lives happily. The mother and the other character, they kind of get into the boy band and Tamagotchi. Yeah, for some reason they kind of think that Tamagotchi is a big deal. Wow, I went to the bathroom and I kind of realized that I don't have my glasses that I usually have on top of me. So anyway, the kaiju thing was I understand that they wanted to make it a kind of like more, more fantasy, more action oriented, but still kind of makes you it feels a little bit that it went a little bit low stake about getting rid of the panda stuff, because it kind of built up that you're gonna get rid of it for good, but it wasn't. It wasn't got rid for good. It was just sealed on a trinket, and you only had to break it so you can go back and all these things. So that kind of lowered a little bit the stakes. Of course, considering that then we have a giant red panda that it causes collateral damage and all these things. But here's the thing that nags me, and I think that this is where they missed the opportunity. And honestly, if I were a writer, and hear me out, I know writer, I'm just kind of like a cynical dude here is. I will actually take out a little bit more of a cynical approach. And in that case, I wouldn't forgive the mother. I would have made the mother completely irredeemable. Because at that point, she was hateful. She was really hateful. And honestly, nowadays, Disney always goes in the approach that the nucleus of the family is always important. This is something that has been going on for many generations, and it's been explored and always told in many Disney movies that family is important. But I wish that sometimes they kind of explore a little bit more the bad side of family, and not exactly in the fantasy realm, almost like Tangled. Because Tangled, they did it wonderfully, at least in the sense about horrible mothers and all these things. But in this case, that wouldn't count, mostly because it is a fantasy film. This one, they wanted to make it has its moments of fantasy, but there wasn't kind of like a moment in which Disney have never kind of explored something like, for example, bad parents that are irredeemable, and they always try to find a way to redeem it, or that they say that, oh, I'm sorry I did wrong, or something like that. Almost like Encanto, at least they did in Encanto. But at least in Encanto, the grandmother, at least, they gave her, she was a little bit more fleshed out. As much as I complain a little bit more about the ending of Encanto, I like it was at least fleshed out well enough to believe the paranoid and the mistakes of the grandmother. But in this case, the mother comes off as a total, complete, irredeemable Karen that she felt like this character that it didn't have an ounce of humanity. She was so detached to the real world that it kind of felt a little bit like a lost cause. But the grandmother at least had kind of like a moment with the daughter, that she is kind of she kind of felt it. Although this moment I kind of wish that it was fleshed out a little bit more. But there was kind of like a moment in which that mother character was a little bit irredeemable or something like that. So here's some things that if I could have been kind of like a more cynical. First of all, what will be my first approach? First, I will get rid of the kaiju tanuki thing. And because this whole thing was a little bit dilksy to make it, to give it a little bit of an actiony big moment with battle monster. In this case, how about if I make that the mother finally snaps and sees about the concert, and she basically, how can I say, she goes to pick up, how can I say, a car. And then she gets so insane that she even picks up kind of like how can I say, a truck or a construction truck or something like that, and she goes to destroy the concert. She goes to destroy the concert, like a crazy mother. I mean, you got crazy people in this movie, so what else there is? And they try to stop her. They try to stop her because she's out of her mind. And then, of course, at the end, she finally gets stopped. And she gets arrested. The father finally realized that she's not worth it. The grandmother finally realizes that how she raised her daughter, and she finally feels regret about what she's done. But that mother, she even got problem with they could have done with the cop that she's always seeing this trespassing the school and all these things. So this mother should have been arrested. She should have been arrested, irredeemable, or divorced. I know I'm sounding harsh, but I could find out. But I think that it could have been kind of like a way to find out that sometimes, not everything works in the nucleus of the family. Sometimes, some parents are long gone and they're not worth it. Even if they have their good intention, but overprotection is not exactly a good intention. It's almost like everything. That people always say that it's not always good. When a good thing is too much, it unhinges it. And but unfortunately, Disney didn't want it to go that way. It's always all in the family, and family is important, and all these things. And honestly, I've seen that a lot of times in Disney. Again, Encanto did that. Encanto did it well. And honestly, I am kind of a little bit of a wishful thinking that they could have make it a little bit more on that. Yeah, it's gonna be dark and a little bit harsh, but But I think that sometimes it will be interesting to explore. Kind of like a bad part of the nucleus family, and this felt like it had that opportunity, but it didn't want it to go there. Either way, I'm not exactly complaining that it was bad. Sometimes they make it kind of like horrible way, but this one, I think that it could have gone a little bit better. If I could have diminished the red panda was contained instead of eliminated completely or something like that. Or if you wanted to keep up, the red panda stuff and all these things. How How about if the mother becomes a lost cause, that she becomes totally a monster, and they decided that it is for the best to, seal the monster, but unfortunately she gets so unhinged and because of the damage, she gets arrested. And honestly, at this point, why wasn't she arrested? She did huge collateral damage. Okay. I think I'm done with my spoiler talk. So, Turning Red was annoying. Was annoying for me, at least. It became my least favorite Disney Pixar movie. Not exactly in a bad way. And again, I haven't seen Cars 2 in order to give out some kind of legit review saying that, oh, this is the worst movie, it's worse than Cars or something like that. No, I put this movie below Onward. Onward was actually one of my least favorite Pixar movies, but I think that in certain contexts, Onward had a little bit some creative spark, and this one, I get that what he was trying to do with the puberty, but and all the overprotection stuff that there is, but it takes a while for me to get used to this new style of animation for Pixar standards, and although it wasn't bad, it just kind of a little bit alienated. The themes, it isn't bad. It makes me want to watch Teen Wolf. Actually, you know what? I'll give myself a chance to watch Teen Wolf and try to compare it to this movie. So, if you like it, it's fine. I don't mind. It's not, I've seen worse things. So if you want to watch something different from Pixar standards, actually kind of like I'll say at least to make it fair, this is more a below average film in terms for Pixar. Not exactly bad. I didn't like it, but hey, I forgot that this movie had this movie had the audacity to have a line saying, my panda, my choice. God! This movie makes me so... I see what you did.